Hello, everyone. It is Thursday, May 15th. Sorry, I'm a little bit late getting on here today. I wanted to get on around 1, but was getting my notes together. Had a pretty busy morning. Man, there's a lot going on today. There's a lot going on every day right now, I feel like. But some crazy things. Coinbase had a hack today. We have Trump doing big things in the Middle East. I'm going to break down what I think is going on over there and the whole plan behind what's happening. I think there's multiple reasons that these deals are being made. And then on the DePIN side, guys, I had a chance to meet with the CEO of 375 AI yesterday. Wow, I'm going to be doing a full interview with him in a couple of weeks. That project's going to be doing some big things, y'all. They already are, actually. Their CEO, he was the CEO of Linksys for a couple of years. He's like in his, I think, late 30s probably. And the guy was in the Forbes 30 under 30, has had several successful businesses that he started and exited. They're doing massive things. Essentially what they're doing, by the way, is they're setting up the cameras all over the country. So they've got a bunch in LA already. They have NVIDIA GPUs in the hardware. So they're able to process all the imagery with AI at the edge and make all that actionable. They're already capturing a large percentage of all the vehicles driving in LA today. They're rolling out some different hardware to make it easier for individuals to participate, as well as the apps. So you can actually download their app and participate that way. So definitely big things with that project. Super excited about 375 AI. I'm going to highlight DeEEP Network today. I did interview their CEO. I posted it a few weeks ago. I'm going to break down what they're doing. But I always like to start with a quote. So the quote today, it's actually it's a Mark Zuckerberg quote, which is crazy. But it says, the biggest risk is not taking any risk. And in a world that's changing really quickly, the only strategy that is guaranteed to fail is not taking risks. And I think we all know about taking risks. We're in crypto. Shit. It's a high risk proposition, but we're early. I imagine that people said the same thing about the internet back in its beginning stages. I don't know about you, but I would rather take risks and fail 20 times over than not take any risks and work until I'm 80 years old in a 95 for someone else. It's just me. It's just me. So y'all, the other thing I'll say with this is, yes, it's high risk, and we hear about it, obviously, from our friends and family that aren't in crypto. They like to let us know about it when the market's down. I'll say when the market's up, stay humble. Stay humble. Don't rub it in people's faces. Don't talk about your wins. People get really weird. I'll tell you, when you start to do well and start making money, people can get really weird. They can start getting jealous. And I would advise keeping that close, to yourself. Don't if you have like a really close friend or brother, you can talk about it. But I would not be boastful about that stuff. Stay humble, y'all. By the way, difference between jealousy and envy. Envious is you wanting something that somebody has but being happy for them. Jealousy is wanting something that somebody has but not wanting them to have it. Two different things there. All right, let's break into the DePIN news. Well, I was looking at the DePIN market cap today. Look at that jump. Something's weird here. I think they must have added a bunch of projects to their DePIN category, because I can tell you when I looked earlier this morning, it was actually down about 6%. I think we saw alts bleed a little bit more today. Market was down a little bit. Bitcoin's bounced back. A lot of the alts have bounced back. But I'll tell you, this was at like 20.5 billion. So something happened. I was looking through the different projects. They must have added a bunch to the DePIN market cap. So it's not really representative of what's going on right now. But I will say, I think there's brighter times ahead. It's all right. Let's look at Bitcoin. Bitcoin is looking nice. It's still staying in line with this M2 money supply. Some people are using the 108-day. Now they're saying 78-day. I've switched to the 78-day up here. It is aligning. The main thing is Bitcoin has very closely followed global liquidity. I mean, that's the main story here. It takes generally I guess they say 78 to 108 days, depending on who you talk to, for it to trickle through the global economies, and then it finds its way into Bitcoin. And surely we are seeing a run up if this correlation holds, and there's no guarantee it will. But if it does, we do have a nice run up here ahead of us potentially. So let's hope that happens. Looking at Bitcoin dominance, we were on just an uptrend. Bitcoin was gaining dominance against alts, and we finally saw that break. We're not where we were in December. If y'all remember, like alts were looking pretty nice back in December. But we are seeing that alts are starting to gain some traction. And this is, of course, with Bitcoin gaining traction as well. So that's a good sign. We've seen the large caps gain. We haven't quite seen it flow into DePIN yet. But still, I think it can happen. I think we got it coming. One of the things that makes me a little hesitant, but at the same time, this is a good indication of it being a good time to add to positions, is Google searches for Bitcoin hits 6 months lows. So, this has kind of been my thesis over the last 6 months or so since we saw this market drop out as to why we haven't seen alt season. I think we've had a lack of retail. So we need to see retail come back, I think, to have a major surge in alts, but it's also a good time to buy when people are bored of the market, when you see fear in the market. If you look at the fear and greed index, we got down to like a 10 a couple of months ago. Most DePIN prices are still kind of in line with where we were at the bottom, not far off. So I'm looking at this as an opportunity to continue adding. Now, will we see alt season? What this guy thinks so. This guy's been talking about alt season starting every day for the last year. There's a lot of people like that. Nobody knows when exactly it's going to happen. There's some signals you can look at. There's the golden cross. So this is when I think it's like the 40-day moving average crosses over the 200-day moving average. So it hasn't happened in 4 years. Last time it happened, it signaled alt season. So it could be. All I know is this, y'all. Like, I have high conviction for the projects that I do deep research on, that have a use case, that have a team behind it. And when there's fear in the market and we're seeing prices close to their bear market lows, I'm buying. I mean, that's just all there is to it. Does that mean it can't go lower? No. But I do believe that at a certain point when the market does come back, we'll look back at these prices and be like, shit, I should have bought more. That's my sentiment, at least. We'll see. Something from Rover. I'm actually talking to their team right now. I'm trying to get them on for an interview. Rover. So I bring this up because I think this is going to be something we might start seeing with other projects. They are adjusting their pricing on one of their pieces of hardware. I don't know if it says because of tariffs, but I imagine that has to be part of it. So we might start seeing some pricing adjustments. It does not go into effect until June 1st. So looking at their hardware real quick, this is the Tarantula they're talking about. It's still $149. So if you're looking to get one of these, I would hop on it in the next couple of weeks. I don't have a discount code, unfortunately. I need to reach out to them about that. But this project, they're doing HD mapping. So it's not really what HiveMapper's doing. It's quite different. And there's a market for it, by the way. I was looking up the price per kilometer of HD mapping between $1,440 and $5,000 per kilometer. So there's a market for this thing. What they're doing is they're using what's called LiDAR. So this unit right here, this light cone, it's basically a laser system. So it sends out a laser. Once it hits something, it returns, sends out another laser, and effectively can create like a 3D map. We used to use this. I actually worked in the solar industry. And for a year, I was in Washington, D.C. I worked for a drone service company, but we would measure rooftops with the drones, but then we were having to do measurements of the electrical rooms. And we had a device, we'd sit down in there and just do a circle, and it would use LiDAR to basically map the room out. So it's pretty cool technology. You can get really, really high definition mapping. So that's what this unit's doing. The Rover, the Tarantula, is actually verifying the network. That's the part that uses the GeoNet network. So you can plug that thing in and earn Rover tokens as well. So pretty cool project. And I'll tell you, I'm a huge fan of Mike Horton, the CEO of GeoNet, and we spoke probably a few weeks ago. We were on the phone for a little while, and he spoke very, very highly of this project. So I have high trust in his ability to sort out the good and the bad, and he really likes this project. So, Robert, be on the lookout for that. I'll be doing an interview with their team at some point soon. Let's talk about the DeEEP network. I actually did an interview with their CEO recently. It's a decentralized node network. This is something we talk about sometimes. You know, one of the dirty little secrets about DePIN right now is that most of these projects are not fully decentralized, y'all. They are using, AWS. They're using, Google Cloud for storage, for cloud compute services. And our hope is that we get away from some of these centralized entities. We got here. What's good and deep in today? What's up, man? What's up? Yeah, I want to get some comments. I didn't see the comments up here, so I always love to give a shout out to my people. What's up, Flywheel? Kevin's good people, very good people. And ask Rubber for me, where's my airdrop? Okay. What's up, man? Good to have you today. So DeEEP Network is basically trying to fix that. Basically, they are creating a decentralized node network so that these projects can get a fully decentralized stack, get away from these centralized entities. For one, you have better uptime having a decentralized network as opposed to, AWS when they have their outages. You also generally have a better price point. You also don't have censorship issues, censorship resistant. So different reasons to be excited about a decentralized node network. Now, the other thing I'll say, and this is what I think sets them apart from a lot of other projects, the issue I've always had of these decentralized node networks is that, they build out the network and it's like, okay, but is it going to get usage? That's the big question. Like, who is going to use the network? Well, these guys actually built out a company before called NerdNode. So same team, and the team is freaking spectacular, by the way. So they built out this company for years prior. They have a bunch of different services that they host, and they did it in a centralized way at first. So they already have a huge customer base. They have a lot of revenue coming through the door, and they're like, okay, well, let's start up a decentralized infrastructure now to move everything over to. Okay, so they've already gone through the growing pains at the beginning. They've already gotten a customer base. Their team is, like I said, is pretty freaking awesome. They've got a couple brothers on the team that they're like, I don't think they're twins. I think they're just brothers, but they were working with McDonald's. Like I think they have like 5 or 6 IoT devices in every McDonald's. I mean, these guys know how to go out and close deals. So they've got revenue coming through. They're moving it all over to decentralized solution now. You'll notice they're sold out. That's another thing I really like about this project is they could continue selling hardware right now, but their whole thing is, okay, we want to balance demand and supply. So we don't want to build out the network to where we don't have usage on the network. So they're building out the supply. They're kind of, I guess, throttling the growth of the network to make sure they have demand to meet it. Now, the way it works, by the way, so you can join the wait list for their next series of sales. I think probably open up in the next couple months, I imagine. The way it works is you get DeEEP tokens just for being part of the network, but you also get a percentage of the revenue that you generate through the workloads that you'll be hosting. So pretty cool stuff there. So I think this project could do really well. They've got the team, they've got the wherewithal to build out the network. They've got the revenue already, which is like for me the big question mark. And they're not just trying to sell hardware. Obviously, they could be selling more hardware. So a lot of reasons to like the DeEEP network. I don't think I have a referral link on this one either, but I would go ahead and join that wait list if you wanted to get in on this project. I've got hardware that should be coming soon, so I'm going to do an unboxing. Pretty excited about that. So let's see here. So that's what I got on the DePIN news today. today. How's everybody doing today? It's beautiful in Chicago. By the way, if I get on tomorrow, it's going to be kind of early. I've got a really busy day tomorrow, unfortunately, but I'll be getting on. If I do, I'll do a quick morning session on here. It's just fun, man. I like getting on here. I like interacting with everybody. And there's just so much news to always cover. So there's no shortage of stuff to talk about, All right. Well, let's talk about the broader crypto news. Let's see. Let me pull up this window here. So let's get into the broader crypto news. The big story. Coinbase got hacked. So the CEO came out and put out this video today. I'm just going to break it down for you so we don't watch it. But essentially what happened was no one's passwords were hacked. No one's private keys were hacked. Nice weather in St. Louis. The STL. Nice, man. I'm from St. Louis as well. For those that don't know, I live in Chicago now, but I'm originally from St. Louis. I've met Flywheel out at it was Consensus last year. We had a good time. Good people. Helium OG. All right, so Coinbase. So basically, what happened is the hackers were basically trying to compromise some of their customer support agents that were overseas, trying to get them to share private info of some of the Coinbase users, and that's exactly what happened. So the Coinbase CEO came out and he's like, listen, it impacted less than 1% of our user base. They're asking for $20 million. We basically told them to kick rocks. And they're actually putting out a $20 million award for anyone that can share information on who these people are. Now, what they're doing, and I question the 1% because I've been getting texts myself from these hackers. I knew it was because I Googled the number that they texted me. I'm like, that's not Coinbase. They're basically texting people and saying, hey, someone's trying to access your account. If this wasn't you, call this number, or text this number, email, whatever. They're trying to get people to give their information up. So be really careful about that. They did say that anyone that did lose funds through that, they're going to actually reimburse. That said, let's take a look at the information that was supposedly lost here, what they had access to over there, because they have KYC. So not just your personal information, but last 4 digits of your social, government ID images. So that's not fantastic. Not great, obviously. So a little bit more of a big deal than I think what they were letting on. Also, I think it's really interesting. They just joined the S&P 500. I wonder how long they do about this. Seems like they sat on their hands potentially until after the listing. Just saying. Maybe not. Maybe not. Their stock fell, obviously, following that. They're saying it could cost up to $400 million. So there must be some pretty substantial lost funds that they're going to be reimbursing people. So that is a big deal. It could be worse though, y'all. I mean, I know people in the crowd have had worse happen to them. I think you're not really in crypto until some sort of hack has happened. You've lost a little bit of money. It's kind of like your introduction to crypto to be officially in crypto, I think. But guess what? Tether is printing a couple $1 billion. Man, where's it going to go? I don't know. Bitcoin, hopefully some alts. Hopefully. What else we got? BlackRock bought 57.6 million of Ethereum. Speaking of Ethereum, where are we at? Ethereum's had a nice little run recently. If it loads, there we go. Over the last month, I mean, look at this. 1580 up to 2547. Not bad. Not bad. Will the run continue for Ethereum? I think it could. I mean, people are sleeping on it. The institutional investment behind Ethereum is pretty large still. And the layer 2s are definitely having seen a lot of usage. We'll see if Ethereum's run continues, but I think it was quite undervalued. And I mean, this would suggest so, but things can change quickly. So we'll see. I thought this is interesting. JP Morgan says that Bitcoin likely has more upside than gold in the second half of 2025. I would have to agree. I mean, I love gold long term. Gold had a hell of a run to start the year, but gold does really well when there's recession concerns, when US dollar dominance was in question there for a little while. Went on a massive run. So shouldn't be a surprise that we've seen a little bit of a correction on gold. It's like what, 14 trillion, probably even more actually at the last run. It's a massive asset so to have a big move like it's had is pretty impressive. But Bitcoin kind of plays both sides right now. I think long term it's going to be a safe haven. It's going to be looked at as like digital gold. I think some people are treating it like that, and that are buying it today for long term holding. But it also has the risk on appeal and the upside that comes with that. So I think it kind of hits on both ends. So I wouldn't be surprised to see Bitcoin have more upside for the second half of 2025 compared to gold. This is really, I thought this is kind of worth bringing up. This famous short seller. So he's shorting MicroStrategy, but he's long on Bitcoin. And I think the whole deal here is that MicroStrategy charges a premium. So he's basically looking at this arbitrage. I wonder if we're going to see more people do this. And I'm curious to see how it works out for him. But I thought that was interesting. This is big news. MasterCard announced that they're going to enable crypto payments with 150 million merchants. Oh, like this stuff is coming. And I mean, look, it's on NBC, but I would bet that most people don't know that this stuff is happening. Like when I ask people, hey, do you know? People are still like, oh, I heard Bitcoin, took a hit the other day. I'm like, yeah, down to like 102,000. What are you talking about? People have no idea. People have no idea. We're in the know, though. We're in the know. PayPal says they want to be the gateway for Bitcoin and crypto mainstream and the mainstream destination for crypto. They have 434 million customers worldwide. Y'all, like, this is wild. Some of this stuff, like a few years ago, I say this every day, but a few years ago, it would have been unthinkable that this stuff would be happening. MetaMask is finally having their token launch for those of you that still use MetaMask. I mean, MetaMask used to be like the go-to crypto wallet, but they just kind of like fell behind, frankly. I don't really use MetaMask anymore. There's a lot of other, in my opinion, other wallets that are better. But if you are still using it, you'll receive an airdrop. So that's exciting. But I still think they need to update their app more. Because I like Phantom's better. Even Rainbow Wallet I prefer over MetaMask. They kind of like fell behind. Frank DeGods is looks like he's dumping. Oh man. Whatever happened to that whole vape cabal? They kind of just like disappeared. They were bad for the space anyway. Fuck those guys. Sorry. That was a strong opinion. All right. And then who's selling it to yeah. Okay. So this is the question, because there's 5 companies that invested $3 billion into Bitcoin in the last few days. And, like a lot of us have been asking, like, why is the price not moving more? And, for one, I think that they've been buying OTC, but like OTC desks, like how much Bitcoin can possibly be there? Another question is there paper Bitcoin? In other words, if you're buying through an exchange, are they basically showing in your account, in your balance, that you purchased Bitcoin, but not actually buying it on chain? We saw some of that in the last market cycle. Like I have a buddy that works for he has a crypto hedge fund. He's been in Bitcoin since the early days. And I was down meeting with him down in Florida, and I was asking him about this. And he's like, look, all of our modeling shows that there's definitely been paper Bitcoin with these exchanges. And he said we would have broken 100,000 in the last market cycle if it weren't for the paper Bitcoin. So basically what they were doing, is just showing you that you have a balance, but not buying on chain unless you withdrew from the exchange, and then they would have to buy it on chain so you could withdraw it. So there could be some of that going on. I would hope that these exchanges would have to have better reporting to show that they actually own the assets on chain. I don't know. It's hard to say. MetaMask is terrible UI comparatively. I agree. I mean, they had like, they got ahead of everyone else, and then they just never updated it. There's like, all right, we're cool. We're chilling. Terrible. I've worked for companies that had that mindset. It's like, yeah, well, you're not going to last long. Got to keep innovating. Got to keep innovating. All right. Oh man, what do we got here? All right, let's move into some macro news. We had Jerome Powell came out this morning. They're doing their 5-year update, and I wanted to highlight a couple things, but let's move into the macro news. Let's go to the macro news. Let's see here. So I thought this guy, this is the guy, by the way, that leaked the 90-day pause on the tariffs that ended up not being true, but then ended up being true a week later. So I don't know who this person is or who runs this account. They seem to have some insider information on things, but his take on this was appropriate to Powell said it's appropriate to reconsider average inflation targeting. Actually, I have the clip here. I think I need to share the actual. Let me close this out real quick so I can play the audio for y'all. But this would be a huge shift, guys, because historically 2% has always been the target inflation rate for the Fed, or at least in our lifetime. They're talking about potentially changing that. So I just want to play. Here we go. What he said here. So let me pull this up. Boom. I have it right where I want it. Here we go.
In our discussions so far, participants have indicated that they thought it would be appropriate to reconsider the language around shortfalls. And at our meeting last week, we had a similar take on average inflation targeting. We will ensure that our new consensus statement is robust to a wide range of economic environments and developments. In addition to revising the consensus statement, we will also consider potential enhancements to our formal policy communications, particularly regarding.
Okay. So basically, yeah. So basically he said there like, hey, we might change our target rate for inflation. That would be a huge move. And I would imagine they would move it upward, right? And this is kind of coincides with a lot of the books I'm reading right now, is that like globally, we're moving into a higher inflationary environment where this is going to be the new norm. We'll wait and see if that is the case, but find that very, very interesting. What's up, brother? That's my older brother. He's in St. Louis too. So we'll see. We'll see what happens with the Fed, and if they do change the target rate for inflation. So we came in at like 2.3%. That could allow them to start lowering rates sooner, potentially, because they have a dual mandate, right? Number one is price control, make sure that or price stability, not price control, price stability. Try to get to that 2% target rate. And then on the other end is the job market. So this could allow them to start cutting rates sooner, start doing additional quantitative easing. All right, let's see. Let's talk about what's going on in the Middle East trip. I'm going to talk about also what I think is happening there, and why some of these moves are being made. And I think there's a couple different big reasons that a lot of people aren't talking about. So number one, it sounds like India is offering zero tariffs on U.S. goods. So that is actually pretty remarkable, because India generally has much higher tariffs than most countries around the world. So if this does happen, we'll have to wait and see. But if it does happen, that is a pretty big win, actually. The other thing is Trump went to the UAE today. And I played this clip yesterday. They're showing their AI cluster presentation. I didn't realize this, but as far as AI development, the U.S. is number one. China is probably pretty close behind, if not right there with us. And then the UAE is number 3 globally. So that's I think a big reason why we had some of the AI bigwigs out there as well. But apparently they are saying they're going to invest $1.4 trillion in the U.S. in the next 10 years. Holy shit. That's massive. If it happens, right, that'd be big. The other thing, their largest oil company in the world said they're going to sign $90 billion worth of pacts with the U.S. companies, rather. How big is this company? Well, they are the number 6 largest company in the world. They're pretty damn big. I think you probably recognize most of the other companies on this list ahead of them. So that's pretty big deal. And they have the deep pockets to do it. So another pledge, and they're estimating right now that this trip could bring in as much as $10 trillion in investment. Wow. So let's talk about that. And I'm going to break down why that's such a big deal and why I think some of this is happening. Iran also came out and said that they're potentially ready to sign a nuclear deal, but I think they're wanting all sanctions to be dropped. I don't know what's going to happen there. But I think part of what Trump was doing with talking about removing some of the stipulations on Syria yesterday was to kind of pressure Iran into this nuclear deal. This has been something that's been ongoing for a while. So this would be big news if they can strike a deal. We'll see. We'll see if that happens. But this guy, so I brought this tweet up. Not many people saw it, but it kind of coincides with my sentiment here. And we talked about this yesterday. We need, I think there's a couple of reasons why these deals are being made. Number one, this 10-year treasury, I'm going to keep talking about it because it's a huge deal. We have $9 trillion of debt maturing over the next 12 months. And it's quite an outlier. You look at all the years around it, like this is the 1 year where there's a massive amount of debt, national debt rolling over. This rate, we need to get this rate down because we're going to be paying an arm and a leg on interest if we don't. So we need people to buy treasuries, basically, is what it comes down to. And one of the big threats right now is that the biggest holders are Japan and China, and they could start selling these off, and that would push this rate up and basically make it really expensive for us to roll over that debt. So I think part of what we're seeing here with this $10 trillion in potential investments, I would bet that some of that's going to be forcing them or having them buy treasuries to help us with this problem, to get this rate down and make it cheaper to refinance our debt. The other thing I thought was interesting with Jerome Powell is like, hey, yeah, we might change the target rate. If they do that and they start lowering rates, they could try to push this rate down. They could also start QE where they can start increasing their balance sheet in creating demand for these treasuries to push that rate down. I think this is like one of the top priorities right now, okay, for the U.S. is to get this rate down so we can roll over our debt cheaper. And I think this is part of that, I believe. The other thing is BRICS. And I've brought this up a couple times. BRICS, Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa. And there's a lot of other countries that have joined this coalition. And they met back in the fall, and it was characterized as a modern day Bretton Woods. But the U.S. obviously was not involved in it. Okay, if you don't know, Bretton Woods was when the U.S. dollar first became dominant back at the end of World War II. So basically, they've been talking about getting away from the U.S. dollar and creating their own currency. So India has recently started to side with us. Saudi Arabia had been an extended invite, but they hadn't officially joined yet. But I think they were kind of, seeing how this all plays out. So I think getting India on our side, getting Saudi Arabia on our side, kind of breaks up some of the momentum that BRICS had going. So I think this is a big effort to also protect the U.S. dollar in a couple of different ways. First, kind of breaking up this BRICS coalition, some of the momentum they had there. But secondly, trying to get some investment to push down this 10-year treasury. I think it's twofold. So it's a pretty big deal if they can get all that done. Now, not everything is necessarily rainbows. Okay, we have some. JP Morgan says, "Hey, we escaped a black hole, and there's only upside from here." So that's good. That's positive. But we have other people saying like, "Hey, we could see another crash here." And I agree. I don't think we're out of the woods quite yet. So other things that are taking place here. You have the student loans. We had basically stopped collecting on those for the better part of the last 4 years. They're starting to collect on these again. And there are a lot of students that are delinquent on these things. They're going to start garnishing wages. They're going to start taking money from people. So this is not good for the economy, not good for consumer sentiment and spending. That's for damn sure. The other thing is that, wholesale prices fell by 0.5% in April. A lot of people are calling this a huge win. They're like, yeah, see, tariffs don't cause inflation. The question is this a sign of overall weakness in the economy? And I think it is. I think that what we're seeing is consumer demand dropped significantly. And I think a lot of these retailers are not able, they would probably like to pass on some of the tariff costs, but they're not able to do so right now because consumer sentiment is so weak. They're having to eat that. Now, bigger companies can do that. They can swallow, they can eat some of that profit margin, but medium to small size business can't. So we're going to see how that all plays out. Don't get me wrong; it's definitely good that we, got something done with China, or at least reduce the tariffs so they're no longer an embargo. But I still think there's more pain coming, is what I'm saying, basically. And then United Healthcare, sheesh. Their CEO got murdered, and then the CEO stepped down. The next one, and they're now being investigated. By the way, so look at this chart. Looks like a freaking meme coin. Like not even enough screen to get it all in there. So that's a big deal. So not all things are fantastic. I saw something in the betting market right now. This is absolutely bananas. Trump is the favorite right now in the betting markets to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Like, could you imagine if that happened? People would lose their absolutely lose their minds. There's no way. I don't think it'll happen. But I thought that was freaking crazy. All right, let's talk about some global news here, and then I'm going to get into my lesson of the day, which is going to be about the replacement rate and the birth rate, declining birth rates. We're going to break down why birth rates are so low right now. It might surprise you. Let's get into the global. So not everyone's so happy about the sanctions being lifted on Syria. Looks like Israel's like, no, you can't do that. So we're going to have to see how that plays out. Seems that Trump and Netanyahu this last week have been at odds a bit, but we'll see how that plays out. I don't know. I came across this story, and it's from Reuters, and it's my old industry, but apparently some of the solar hardware that was being shipped every year had rogue devices installed in them that could destabilize grids and damage infrastructure. So these are these inverters. Essentially, solar panels produce DC or direct current. Everything in our houses and our grid runs off alternating or AC current. So these basically just sit behind the panels and convert the power that's generated from the sun from DC to AC. So that's what they're talking about here, these inverters. They're also used for battery systems because batteries also, they store it in DC. It has to be converted to AC to pull the power and use it. So that's what they're saying, is that they found in these hardware stuff that they, I guess, planted in there to damage our grid potentially. So we'll just see what comes of that. It's pretty crazy. RFK had his hearing yesterday, and Ben & Jerry's co-founder was removed. He was causing a little bit of a ruckus. Thought that was interesting. All right, what else we got here? Okay, this is a lot of people are really up in arms about this. Because we've more or less shut down the border this year, and then they brought a bunch of people in from South Africa, refugees in. Elon's out here saying, "Oh, they wouldn't give me a Starlink license because I'm white." Everyone's making it a race thing. I understand people's view on this, because we have more or less shut down immigration in the country, and then all of a sudden it's like, yeah, we're going to let these people, give them a fast track into the country. But that actually brings me to the lesson of the day, which is why we actually need immigration in this country. Okay, and I'm going to explain why from an economic standpoint. But let's get into the lesson of the day. So, you guys know what the replacement rate is? It's basically the birth rate. I'm going to pull this up real quick. The birth rate that's necessary to sustain a population. So it's 2.1 children per woman, and per person. Obviously, for every 2 people, you need 2.1 children to be born in order to sustain a society. Obviously, the 0.1 is because some people don't make it long enough to reproduce, right? And if you look at what we're dealing with right now across the world, the red are the countries that are not producing enough, not reproducing high enough to sustain a population. Now, why does this matter? Well, the big problem from an economic standpoint is when you have an aging population, you don't have enough young people paying taxes into the system, and you have Social Security, you have Medicare, these programs, they fail. You need enough young people that are paying in taxes, working to support the system. And this is what we're seeing. I read an econ book about this like 10 years ago, and they predicted all of this. They're like, listen, like the birth rates are declining. They call out Japan as a perfect example. Like Japan's economy is F because of this. And it got me, I listened to some podcasts, and this is kind of interesting statistics. Well, they did surveys. They're like, what do you think the number one reason is for people not having children? And I figured it would have been, well, it's too damn expensive. Finance reasons. The number one reason is actually fertility issues. And it's not the women, it's the males. So the sperm counts since the 70s in males is down over 50%. And they don't know why. They think it might be the microplastics. They think it might be pollution. They don't know exactly what's causing it. But that's the number one reason why people aren't having kids right now is fertility issues. And it's actually the males that are dropping. Their fertility rate is dropping. So interesting stuff. So obviously it's important to figure that out. But what's the solution in the meantime? You need to you need immigration. In Japan's an example of this. Like they won't bring in any immigration. They refuse to, and they have a high debt to GDP ratio. And it's a big reason why their country's having so many issues from an economic standpoint. So I think, people are all over the place. I think most people are in the middle here. It's like, obviously what happened in the first 3 years of Biden's presidency wasn't the answer. What's happening right now, I don't think is the answer either. I think most people want reform in our immigration policy. There's a lot of people that want to move here, that want to work, that want to contribute to society, that are in really bad situations where they currently are. So, for people that are totally against immigration, if the humanitarian side of it doesn't do it, the economic side should, because it is necessary. And that is my lesson of the day. We'll see how that all plays out, but I don't know. I thought that was fascinating about the birth rates. Oh, and then I saw this, and I'm like, yeah, we're totally doomed. Now you have people like screwing robots pretty soon. I'm like, no one's gonna have kids anymore. What the hell? Well, I kid. Oh man, but that's all I really got for today. Like I said, tomorrow I'll be back. Probably if I do come, it'll be in the morning. It'll be probably a quick episode. I got a lot going on, and then I'll probably try to hop on a little bit this weekend. But I mean, it's a really interesting time right now. There's people that are super bullish. There's people that are like think that the world is about to end. And we're gonna have this massive recession. I don't know. I mean, there's certainly underlying weakness, but there's also so many bullish things happening. I do know this, as far as like the DePIN and the DePIN sector goes, these prices are as low as they've been, even when there's the most fear in the market. So I'm just continuing to build positions in the projects I truly believe in that have solid teams and fundamentals. So when the market does come back, I think they'll do quite well. So that is what I'm going to continue doing. As I mentioned, I have an interview coming up with, let's see, Pre-Search is one. I'm interviewing next week. They're a decentralized search engine. I was on a space with their CEO yesterday. He's a pretty sharp guy. And then I've got the interview with 375 AI, represent, and Rover coming up. So I'll get those posted. Make sure to share, like. Appreciate you all. Get outside, get some sunlight. I know I always say that, but it's so important. You got to get out, get some fresh air, go for a walk. You know, even a 30-minute, I think I talked about this the other day, 30 minutes a day is like 2%, just over 2% of your day, of the 24 hours. You can do it. Appreciate it, everybody. See ya.